Hey guys, Dan at BinaryWonder.com. So this is part 2 in our review of some of the best MS-DOS retro games in my collection. We're at year 1990. So today we're going to look at Commander Keen, Episode 1, King's Quest V, which once you'll see in the video, the platform's really changed. It's been kind of a dramatic change from King's Quest IV to King's Quest V. So we'll look at that. We're going to look at Loom, another sort of classic adventure game, sort of Amiga-like, Silent Service 2, Sim Earth, and Wolfpack. You know, some of these games I didn't play quite as often as others. Some of them I discovered or acquired after this time frame from 1990, but many of them, Commander Keen, King's Quest, Wolfpack, a lot of these sort of hold fond memories for me over playing over the course of several years. So I think 1990 is the beginning of sort of a shift in DOS games. I think 1991, if I had to choose a year, and we'll cover that in part 3 of this series, if I had to choose a year as sort of the golden age for MS-DOS games, in my opinion, you know, I really think 1991 is that year. So that will be a big review in part 3. 1990 is really sort of the build-up, I think, of a bunch of platform changes, especially in the adventure game space from Sierra, where you see a number of advancements, new video modes, better colors, sort of a better platform overall. So so this is part 2 covering 1990, and we'll cover 1991 in part 3. So looking forward to it. All right, guys. So this is part 2, the first game in part 2. This is Commander Keen, Invasion of the Vorticons, episode 1. So this was, I guess, released at the tail end of tail end of 1990. Not 20 anything back then. So we will give it a go. Commander Keen was definitely one of my favorites. I think we're starting to get to the edge of what I consider to be really the golden age of DOS games. We're not quite there yet. You know, I really feel like probably 1991, which would be part 3 in the series, is probably the golden age of DOS games for me. And we'll go through a lot of those, but 1990, I think, really saw a shift in some of the games. I mean, when we looked at in the last series, we saw a number of games from 1989 and some from 1990 and earlier, and you know, they were good games. They really were. Especially the Space Quest series, anything from Sierra Online at the time was really excellent. But I feel 1990 was kind of a change, and probably the beginning of the wave of a lot of great games about to come out. So let's start playing Commander Keen. So we'll do new game, skip the story. So this is kind of an interesting. It's kind of an overview map. I guess a lot of the console games had something similar. You know, with Mario Brothers, you'd have this kind of overview map, and then you would progress to these different levels. So Commander Keen, he could jump, he could use a pogo stick, he had a blaster as well, definitely in some of the later ones. I don't know if I've played this episode probably the least compared to other episodes. And I don't quite know. Let's turn this down a little bit. It's a little bit loud. I don't know if he had an actual pogo stick on this one. But Commander Keen is definitely one of the all-time favorites. Oh. It's harder than it looks, people. There's Blaster. Can I get it? Get a running start. Yes. So I only have 5 charges. I don't even know what the shoot button is. It's funny. I mostly played PC games with keyboard, and I kind of feel like it's not right if you don't play it from a keyboard. So you'll hear a lot of clicking keys. It's my old style sort of mechanical gaming keyboard in the background. But anyway, that's Commander Keen. I did actually play it with a gamepad. So you could plug it into the joystick port, and it was kind of a simple, I guess, a D-pad that you'd see like on Nintendo. I did play it with that. So that's Commander Keen. We're going to move on to the next game, which is King's Quest V. Alright, so this is King's Quest V. And if you remember what the Sierra engine looked like in King's Quest IV, it was different. So we've got 256 colors here.
Have you previously played King's Quest V?
We'll say no just to show some of the intro.
This cartoon contains material that may...
So again, this was, like I was talking about earlier, this is a shift. So 1990 was another shift. King's Quest V was probably the first time I entered into the series. The first 4 King's Quests I sort of learned afterward, but King's Quest V, along with Loom, that we'll see in a moment, coming up, was really my entry into this platform. So you can see a nefarious wizard has stolen a castle. So obviously Graham, who's been the key character, except for the time that there was this woman, if you remember the previous King's Quest. Graham is mostly the main character. So let's see if we can fast forward this. So we are here. I believe this is Cedric.
Cedric is too busy looking around and doesn't seem to be paying any attention to Graham at the moment.
So you can see the engine's significantly different here. So more colors. The resolution's probably different. The Sierra has always had sort of a menu-based. It was more apparent in the later versions, I think, than the earlier versions, but a menu base where you can sort of control things. You've got your inventory, some of the various commands that you can do. You can also mouse through those by right-clicking. The characters themselves are more detailed, though still pretty pixelated, obviously by today's standards. But to me, this engine right here, and we'll see it in the later Space Quests, Space Quest 4, 5, that to me this was really the golden age, beginning of the golden age.
Watch out! A poisonous snake!
So you can hear these, these digitized voices. As I recall, this game is like 400 megabytes when you count all of the audio with it, which would have been a huge game for this time frame. I think it obviously would have been released on CD. Games before that probably would have been 3.5 inch or 5.25 discs. But to support all of this audio that's all throughout the game, you really needed the space of a compact disc at this point. So we will go a little bit on King's Quest V. And of course that poison snake is going to get me. Perhaps. We shall see. Maybe not. I've avoided him. So you can see some of these animations, sort of more advanced kind of than the previous King's Quest. some really nice scenes here. You know, the artists now have a much bigger color palette to play with. You've got some, the programmers have made some of these movements. You've got smoke, water movement, animal movement, some background music. It's really excellent. So let's go on to the next game, which is Loom.